This policy went into effect May 5th of 2022. We were in the middle of a transition with a new management company. So really since November is really when we've hit the ground running with all of our rentals. For the rental policy during COVID, what we were seeing and hearing from a lot of people was that corporations were buying up swaths of homes in areas like McKinney and Forney because there was such a large investment. People can make money, they can make lots of money because the houses were going through the roof. We knew that we needed to do something, so we approached our legal team and said, hey, we need a rental policy. And we use Manning & Myers for our rental.
Same as Chisholm Ridge.
Same as Chisholm Ridge. We use Manning & Myers for all of our legal, all of our bill collection. Casey's been wonderful to work with. And he said, I just got some questions to ask you. What do you want in your policy? Because they kind of have a standard policy that they use. And so we answered the questions the way the board wanted the policy to kind of work out. And some of the things, like, we really wanted harsh penalties for people who didn't follow the rules. So we have a $200 a day penalty that we can impose on people that do not follow our guidelines. The renters that we did have in the community, we had some really great neighbors. And we want renters that are neighbors. We don't necessarily want a big corporation to come in. They're housed out of Oklahoma. They don't come back, they don't check on their properties, maintenance goes down, you're sending violation letters to some P.O. box. They take time to get those letters, remedy those situations. So one of the things that we did was we put in a requirement that the property manager or the owner lives within 25 miles. We also have a requirement in our documents that they have to live in the property for 12 months before they can rent. We don't want to deter people from making money off of their investment, their personal home, but we want them to be members of our community before they decide to do that, so that they understand the rules and regulations associated with living in West Fork.
Tell me about reaction to this policy.
Primarily good. We did a grandfather policy, so we have a rental fee, which is 50% of the current assessment. It's about $700 a year for our community. So they have to pay a yearly fee of 50% of that. Because of the administrative costs, they're gonna pay an additional 50% of whatever the assessments are.
So if everybody else is paying $700 a year, they're paying $1,050 a year.
Yes. But it goes into a different income account. So it's called our rental fee, rental assessments. You know, things happen. You might have a military family that moves in and needs to move out. We do have hardship. So if there's a hardship and we're at the cap or it's under 12 months, you can come to the board and plead your case, and we'll hear those hardship requests and make a determination based on the circumstances that are presented to us. Homeowners love it. They love it. They think that it's wonderful that their neighbors are going to be their neighbors. They're going to be their owners. If they're renters, they know that the board has their back, that we're sending them violations for the same thing that those homeowners are getting violations for, and they're getting remedied just as fast now because of our requirement for the property management company to be within a certain area. It keeps our home values up. Renters that we've seen in other communities that are heavy on rentals aren't as well maintained as homeowner managed community or homeowner established community.
So tell me, enforcement. How do you find is it hard to find out who's renting a house out?
People tell on themselves all the time. They put it on Realtor, they put it on Zillow, they put it on Craigslist, they put it on Facebook. And so our manager once a month goes through and she gets the addresses and sends them a 209 notice and says, you're not registered as a rental. If you don't comply within 30 days, you're gonna have a fine of $200 a day. So, you know, they have to market somehow, and we're looking at all those avenues and keeping up with them. We also don't allow short-term rentals, VBROs, Airbnbs. We have 1,213 homes.
And you allow how many
300 rentals. Okay. And currently we have 99 rentals that are registered with us.
Are there any that you know of right now operating illegally?
Oh, yes.
And you've sent them these 209s.
We send them the notices, and then they have 30 days to comply or they start receiving fines.
How do they react? Do they comply?
Most of them are complying. that we've seen. We just switched to a new management company, Real Manage, and so our manager has been dealing with that. She's probably works about 10 hours a week with with folks that are renting out their house to get them registered.
Is your management company you picked based on somebody who knows how to enforce?
When we interviewed management companies, this was one of the cornerstones of making a decision on who would be the best fit for us. Somebody that could enforce this and had the time, and we made sure in our contract that they had the time to do this. So we have a 20-hour-a-week manager that is strictly for West Fork Ranch. You guys have Spectrum. Spectrum was one of was our runner-up for our property management company, and they assured us that they would be able to handle our rental policy and do all the things that we wanted them to do. So I don't think it's any harm in asking them to enforce your current rental policy.
Is it costing you something out of your budget to enforce that, or is that offset by the fines you're collecting?
We think that it's offsetting by the rental income.
By the extra 50%
Yeah,
you
so
charge.
say we have 100 people that rent per year, that's an extra $35,000 a year that can offset the increased cost of an added manager. And then we have a half-time manager, so that company cannot continually add properties to that person's portfolio, because we're a major part of that portfolio that they have. And if we start to get less and less service, we're going to have a conversation. We're a neighborly community, but we're not friendly to investors that are going to come in and buy swaths of houses and try to make a quick buck off of West Fork Ranch. We put too much time and effort into keeping our community safe. I'm a homeowner, and my largest investment is my house. And my goal is to protect my investment. And so one way that I can protect my investment is being part of the solution rather than the problem. And if I decide tomorrow we need to move for family, I've lived in my house for 7 years. I am willing to rent my house out. I can do that, but it's still an investment that I have personally. And so I'm still going to take care of my investment. And we didn't want to deter anybody from doing that. What we wanted to deter was really those big investors that are going to come in and not be part of our community before they start making money off of our community.
You're not depending on watching anything the city or code compliance or anything does. Do you use old school, like if they have a for rent sign?
That would be a 209 notice if they're not registered. You just have to prove us wrong, like you're not renting out. Is your water bill in your name? We want our neighbors, Chisholm Ridge, Basswood, to adopt these types of policies. A lot of communities around Fort Worth are adopting these type of policies, and I think that we can keep our home values up if we keep homeowners in our homes. I mean, if you look at home values and you're trying to get comps for your home when you're ready to sell it, because it is an investment, and you're trying to pull comps from neighboring communities that are not as nice as your community, it does bring down your value. It's definitely good for Chisholm Ridge. It's definitely good for Basswood. It's good for Creekwood. I think that these policies need to be enforced in a lot of HOAs in the North Fort Worth area. Don't be afraid to take the first step to make these changes in your neighborhood. Because if you don't, who's going to do it behind you? And maybe it'll be too late. Maybe you'll be at 50-60% rental, and you have boards that are full of investors, and they're never going to put a policy like this in place.